Hi, Damien, founder of Keto Source here, with a specific video on meeting fat loss goals or weight loss goals using the C8 MCT oil. This is a very common question we get, so I thought I would record a video for it. So first of all, I guess the first thing to do is to definitely look at the instructions on the side, the directions of use for the oil, and it's on the side of the bottle. It's also on the side of the box there. The reason for that is actually to avoid symptoms, which some people, a minority, but still some people can experience if you don't build up your dose slowly. So please start with the 1 teaspoon and build up with the instructions to the 1 tablespoon dose, which is actually the dose you want to be using for the fat loss, weight loss kind of goals. Now, the way this works is that when you take it, you take it into your small intestine, and your small intestine is going to send it to the liver through a portal vein, and it's going to convert the C8 MCT directly into ketones, and this will increase your blood ketones. So if you want to know that this is working and having an impact on you, what you would do is you would track your blood ketones before you take it, and then you would take a reading again 2 hours later, because it takes about 2 to 2.5 hours to peak in the bloodstream. And then with a 1 tablespoon dose, you will get about a 0.8 millimolar increase in your blood ketones. So if you're not on a ketogenic diet or anything like that, then you're going to have virtually 0 blood ketones when you start at the baseline, and it will be roughly 0.8 after 2.5 hours. And this is sufficient. This is actually in the zone of nutritional ketosis. We say that nutritional ketosis is after 0.5 millimolar. So some people will say when you take this, you will be pushed into nutritional ketosis with a 1 tablespoon dose. It's actually a little bit higher. Why would you want to do that? Well, because when you have higher blood ketones, when you have a level of blood ketones which are at nutritional ketosis or just over, you will feel satiated. This is one of the mechanisms of ketones and how the ketogenic diet works, and how fasting works for that matter, is that you will feel satiated when you have higher blood ketones. And so really, once you understand this, you know what you're shooting for, because as you feel more satiated, as you reduce your hunger cravings and your hunger throughout the day, as you're eating less often or you're eating smaller portions, this is how you lose weight, because you'll end up with a caloric deficit at the end of the day, but you'll do it naturally because you won't really realize it. And this is why the ketogenic diet works, because it's really a natural way, because people aren't focused on having to maintain a caloric deficit, which is hard, it exerts willpower, and it's actually not good for you in the long run in terms of weight loss. If you've heard of yo-yo dieting, calorie restriction normally leads to yo-yo dieting, where you lose weight and you regain more. You lose weight and you regain more, so people actually gain weight over time. With the ketogenic diet, because it's more natural and you feel satiated, you just eat less, then you naturally lose. I talk about normalization of appetite, basically. So you can think about it as when you have these ketones in your blood, it normalizes your appetite, so you're not overeating naturally, and then you have a caloric deficit at the end of the day and you steadily lose weight. So in terms of how you should be taking this, is I've explained the satiation aspect. It's because it's quite important to how you should personally take it. Now, as a baseline, what you want to do is take it first thing in the morning, because that sets the day up nicely. Right, so if you take it with your breakfast or your coffee, or however you like to take it at the beginning of the day, it's going to last for about 4 to 5 hours, and you're going to feel satiated during those 4 to 5 hours. The effects do take a little while to kick in. As I said, it peaks in the bloodstream at 2 hours. It's already rising after 1 hour, so you should feel those satiation benefits relatively quickly after half an hour, and then they'll peak, so you'll feel less hungry about 2 hours into it, and then they'll last for about 4 to 5 hours. Now, if you're a person who gets frequently hungry, is eating lots of snacks throughout the day, drinking lots throughout the day, and you are constantly hungry, then you want to be taking this to cover the whole of the day, to inhibit that to inhibit that hunger throughout the day. So you would take it once every 4 hours. So for example, if you wake up and it's 8 a.m. in the morning, then you'll take it at 8 a.m., you'll take it 4 hours later at midday, and you'll take it again at 4 p.m. And you can see how that will cover your whole day, and it should inhibit your hunger throughout the day to remove that snacking habit, that frequency of eating habit you have, and those hunger cravings that drive that until, so that you're eating fewer times. And so you can take note of how this is working for you by basically counting the number of times you eat per day, very simply. And as with the ketogenic diet, you should find that you're eating less often. So, for example, I've been on ketogenic diet for many, many years now, 5-6 years, and I will eat pretty much with one meal per day in the early evening around 5 or 6, and I'll have a coffee. This is a fat keto coffee with some C8 in it in the morning. It's morning right now. And that's all I eat. That's all I need to eat. I don't get hungry throughout the day. And so that's after being on the diet for a while. Now, you're not going to start with that, but say you're eating 5-6 times a day, which is actually relatively common today. You can reduce the number of snacks by taking this throughout the day. Now, if you're not eating and getting hungry as frequently, this is a good sign, by the way, in terms of your metabolic health, you won't need to take potentially this as much. It won't be beneficial to take it more. It's not beneficial to take this more. So for example, you don't want to be taking it 5 times a day. I've given you the 3 times a day spaced out by 4 hours specifically because that's all you want to take. There are calories in this. So if you max out dose and you keep taking it all day, it's actually gonna not help with fat loss. It's gonna do the opposite because you're taking in calories. So there is a method to how you take this. The other thing to keep in mind is, like I said, satiation. So if you are not currently getting hungry very often during the day, then you don't need to necessarily take this 3 times a day because you don't need the full day coverage. So me personally, I just take it in the morning, and that suits me fine. I'm actually taking it for energy and performance, but I don't need it later in the day because I have higher ketones because I'm on a ketogenic diet. But for you, on the fat loss, what you want to do is, most people find it useful to take it in the morning because, we're going to have hunger in the morning, and it's a nice way to set up the day to get you basically into the right psychology where you're not eating very much. If you take it first thing in the morning, and in that first part of the day, you're not hungry, so it kind of sets up the right mindset and as well. And then if, and only if, you get hungry at midday or at 2 p.m. or at 3 p.m., maybe these are hunger points for you where you get the munchies, you want a snack, then the ideal is to take this 2 hours before that time when you get a hunger craving, right? And you may want to take it a second time. So you could take it a second time to inhibit your lunch. Because you get 12, for example, if you're going to have a lunch at 1 p.m. and normally you won't be as hungry and you'll have a smaller lunch naturally, you're not really going to think much about this. And then, for instance, some people have, they get very hungry at 3 o'clock. They've had a lunch, but they get hungry at 3 o'clock. So, you would probably want to target that snack period and take it at 1 p.m. so that you're inhibited when you get to the 3 p.m. and you don't really want that snack. Or for other people, they have, they eat a very, very large evening meal. Or they're eating late into the evening at 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. And I'm going to give you a little bit of advice about eating late at night in a second. But basically, you would want to inhibit the size of that evening meal, right? By taking this 2 hours beforehand is ideal. 1 hour does a pretty good job, depending on your lifestyle, how you can fit it in. And definitely if you're eating late at night, say 8 p.m., 10 p.m., you'd want to take this, say, with your meal at 6 p.m. to inhibit that need for snacking late at night. Now, why would we want to specifically inhibit? So you're seeing, anyway, let's go back. You're seeing that not everyone has to take this 3 times a day. You take it in order to meet your satiation goal. If you feel satiated the whole day, this potentially is not going to have much effect on you. Like potentially the only useful time for you is going to be first thing in the morning. If you're getting hungry at other times during the day, or you're eating very large meals, at other times of the day, then you should use this strategically an hour or 2 hours before in order to inhibit that hunger response. The last point I want to make is that there is a good amount of research now on the importance of not eating close to your bedtime. You've probably heard this through basically common knowledge, right? It makes common sense. It's been said for years, you shouldn't eat too near to your bedtime because it helps to put on fat. Well, recently that's been shown specifically in research by a researcher named Sachin Panda. You can look up his book. He's got a book called The Circadian Code, which has just been published recently. Basically summarizes his research about how important timing of your meals is. So the last thing I just wanted to say is that specifically if you're eating after 7 p.m. in the evening, you should be using this to inhibit that so that you're not eating after 7 p.m. in the evening, and you've got a good 3, 4, 5 hour gap between your last meal, the last thing you eat, and when you go to sleep, because that's going to help with your fat loss, with your weight loss. Eating later after that period is going to inhibit your fat loss results, and I want you to, of course, get the best results possible with this. So this is the overview of how this works specifically for fat loss. If you're doing something a bit more specific, if you're doing a ketogenic diet and you've been doing the ketogenic diet for a while, or you're doing some fasting protocol, or you're doing something like that extra, then please, hit reply, ask some more specific questions, let me know what your situation is, because I've given you the basic template, but depending on what you're doing, if you're fasting or you're doing a ketogenic diet and you've been on a ketogenic for a while, different things can be relevant as your metabolism is changing and fit into the fasting protocols appropriately. So I hope you found this useful. I know it's a little bit long. I see it's gone on to 12 minutes. So hopefully I've given you a full breadth of understanding. My goal is to enable you to use this to the maximum of your advantage. So that's why I've spent a little bit of time explaining the mechanism, the satiation mechanism, so you can personalize it to yourself. But please ask any questions if you're not sure about anything, if you need clarification on anything I've described in this video. Otherwise, hope you have a fantastic day. It's a fantastic summer this year. I'm loving it. Hope you are too, and I'll speak to you soon.